Gorgeouses, and welcome back to the blog. For this week's letter from the editor, we are all mad about plaid, and hence my vintage plaid shirt, embellished with some Blue Cat handmade jewelry. And for this particular letter from the editor, I want to talk a little bit about the history of plaid. Now, given that may sound super boring, and you're thinking like, oh, I don't want to listen to this, and school's just about to start, and I don't really want a history lesson, but this is going to be awesome, it's going to be cool, so just keep watching. So, to start out, let's take a blast from the past and go back to the 1500s, when plaid was cool way before punk and grunge even came onto the scene, before anybody even thought about that kind of stuff. Plaid actually was known as tartan, which most of us probably don't know the difference, but it's all about how the fabric is laid and the overall pattern appearance. But tartan is very similar to plaid, so just kind of keep that look in mind. And tartan was a unique pattern that distinguished one Scottish clan or geographical region from another. And Bustle best explained that the original Scottish definition of plaid or tartan was a Celtic kilt or blanket which served as an outer layer to battle the elements of the Highlands in the area that they were in. So it really just kind of started out how we all kind of throw on a plaid scarf or something to keep us warm. That's the general idea of how things got started. Plaid as we know it was later appropriated by the British and American manufacturers, go figure, who created fabric that resembled tartan. They still called it tartan, but it was not tartan. And in written records from 1538, it says that the fabric was very high esteemed, had a very high royalty factor. In fact, King James V, who gifted his wife both of this fabric. So just think, how cool was that we're wearing fabric that queens wore, because that was something that they saw as very high value. We see so much plaid nowadays because of hipsters and the evolution of that trend, and we're probably thinking, oh my god, I would just love to just ban plaid for a little while so that we can take a break and kind of get rid of it. But true story, back in England during the 18th century, in Britain, they actually outlawed plaid because it was associated with the Scottish Rebellion of 1745, and they just saw it as this very rebellious thing, and they didn't want anybody wearing it. So they outlawed it with the Dress Act, and it was prohibited, and nobody wore it up until I think it said 1782, when it was legalized again. And after that, after 1782, it became so vogue that women started to wear plaid evening gowns, and I just can't even imagine that. That would just be so disgustingly horrible. But I mean, I get it. It was this, oh my gosh, I need lots of plaid. I am literally mad about plaid because I haven't had it in over half a century. So I thought that was really cool. During the 19th century, tartan became known as plaid because as it made the leap from Europe to the United States, the Woolwich woolen mills created what we kind of call lumberjack plaid, which is the red and black plaid, really called buffalo plaid. And we associate it more so with lumberjacks, as I said, but it was something they created to apply to people who were working outdoors and that kind of thing. So it kind of was for function, and it ended up becoming a trend. And we probably see lots of the lumberjack fashion in men's magazines and things like that, where they wear the red and black with jeans, and they kind of grow their beards out and their hair, and they look like lumberjacks. The clothing company Pendleton debuted the mass-produced plaid shirt for men in 1924, and then in 1936 flannel sort of boomed, and it boomed because of a winter storm in a town called Cedar Springs, where that town started to produce their own red flannel, or the idea of some buffalo plaid, to help battle the winter storm. And through that storm, plaid and flannel became known as a winter staple. And Pendleton saw that, and they were like, heck yeah, we're going to jump on this bandwagon. And in 1949, they made a women's plaid shirt, so it was fit for women, which I thought was really cool, that it took from the 15th century to 1949, plaid was just continuous in the way that it was developing and evolving and becoming bigger in popularity. In the 70s, plaid became kind of this overly sexualized thing, just like we do with anything else in our culture. We have to sexualize it in some way, and they did that with Daisy from the Dukes of Hazzard. She wore her little, Daisy Duke shorts and the plaid shirt tied up. Before that, before the 70s, plaid sort of had this very elegant, very classy look to it, and then we just kind of, boom, really made an impact with it, and it actually made plaid more popular because it applied to a different style. Then in the 80s, movies like St. Elmo's Fire made it more preppy. You started seeing people wear it as the characters from that movie and other movies as well. Even Princess Diana wore plaid, which kind of created this classy royal feel that we got way back in the day whenever kings were buying it for their queens. Then in the 90s, lo and behold, grunge comes along. We can actually look around and see that style repeating itself nowadays. Everything from the big chunky black boots and plaid to people not washing their hair, grunge is back full pledge. But in the 90s, that's where plaid sort of became rebellious again. So it was the 1700 idea of, this is rebellious, we love this, we love the grunge, we love the fact that wearing plaid makes us rebellious, and we're doing that now too. But also in today's culture, we're making plaid classy. Also in the 90s, there was the two sides, just like there is now. You have this very grungy plaid, and then you have this very classy plaid. In the 90s, aside from the grunge, we had movies like Clueless, which was 1995, where she wore like bright yellow plaid. It was very classy, very, too good for everybody else, and then you have the grunge crowd. So, it's amazing to see how such a simple fabric has carried these two different styles throughout its history, and it was either, very high class, or it was very grungy, outdoorsy, rebellious behavior, and I think that is so cool. I'm a big fashion history junkie. I have the Smithsonian book. I love looking it up. Sometimes I just get curious. And plaid is one of those I didn't think there would be a huge history about, but obviously there is. You can actually click some more of the links in the comments below and see some more history about plaid. I just kind of made a summation because it would be way too much to try to tell it all. But thanks for tuning in for this week's letter from the editor. Be sure to come back next week for some boho glam style. I'm looking forward to it. Y'all stay fabulous.